family is gone. Good friends of the family, they were hanged, pictures sent to their wives. Any belongings you have, house, horses, boats, cars, whatever we had, it's all, everything is gone. The home country is gone, money is gone, future is gone. And you have to build that. And that never goes out of the system. So I decided very quickly, if you want to make this world a better place, your only chance.
You're going to get the shittiest problems, nastiest problems.
I use the analogy of even as a manager or CEO, you are the janitor. You're keeping a big waste bin and everyone comes and empties everything into it.
What do you think is just bad advice for entrepreneurs?
Failure is an option. So for me, failure is not an option. Failure is an option that puts you behind bars. You know, the average age of companies has come down to years. That's of those who survive. How many ever reach $1 million?
Is it under 20?
Oh, way.
Oh, wow.
The percentage of those exceeding $5 million. How many years in operation on average for the scaling to happen? For all our impatient entrepreneurs who want to be millionaires in 1 year.
In 1978, when he was just 10 years old, little Sassan remembers playing with soldiers next to their tanks during the day and then going home at night to the sounds of gunshots and bomb explosions. And this was happening almost every day. Before the Iranian Revolution, Sassan and his family had a very comfortable life. We're talking cars, boats, houses, money, even horses, a life that we'd all want. But all of that disappeared very quickly, and very bloodily as well. He was lucky enough to get out on time, but that wasn't true for a ton of people. Thousands of people had lost their lives in that time. This experience would send Sassan around the world in search for justice, from joining political groups to eventually becoming an attorney at law, living, working, studying in Germany, the US, the UK, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. He'd built his life back up to enjoy the material benefits of it with a great, successful career. But something was still missing. Having a family whose financial livelihood was disrupted almost overnight, he highly empathized with other people that might be going through the same thing. And he wished for more families to have stability and security in their lives. And the only way to give that to them, according to him, was to create jobs. Which is why in 1999, he quit his high-flying career as a corporate lawyer and started his first business to do just that, to create more jobs and to create more stability and security for people. The business almost collapsed in its initial years, and he wondered if he'd made a mistake. But as Dr. Sassan told me in the interview for him,
failure is not an option.
24 years later, his business, German Imaging Technologies, or GIT for short, not only exists, but it keeps growing. They've become a printing solutions powerhouse across the Middle East and Africa region. GIT has been listed in all 3 rankings of the Dubai Top 100 SMEs, and they've won tons of awards like Best Brands in Asia, Best Technology Company, and Business of the Year. Through constant challenges like low price competition, to a push to go paperless, to a pandemic, GIT has become anti-fragile. They just get stronger with every attack that's made on them. As I do with all my guests, Dr. Sassan and I traveled a wide variety of topics, but the most beneficial one for me, and I think for you too, my dear listener, is when he delivers this short masterclass on how to set OKRs for your business. Apart from this, we spoke about the difference between A players and C players and what he's put on his wall to remind his staff about the differences. He explained his philosophy on challenges, and we discussed some that he's in the middle of right now. We spoke about receiving terrible advice, such as fail fast and fail forward. He walked me through in detail of how he's currently executing his most important pivot to date. We talked about the mistakes of hiring senior people too soon, and much more. What I love about Dr. Sassan is not only that he's sharp in business, but he works really hard to remain spiritually grounded. I wish I'd recorded the coffee conversation that we had after the interview for you guys to hear. He's got this really fun mix. It's partially this German efficiency, and the other part is this Buddhist concept of accepting suffering. It's a real fun mix. He's quite a treat to share a room with. I don't think there was a single dull moment in the entire interview. I can't wait for you guys to listen to this. So without much further ado, here's Dr. Sassan Dieter Khatib-Shahidi on the EO series of the My First Business podcast.
This episode is brought to you by the Entrepreneurs Organization. Now, before I tell you what they do, first, let me tell you the numbers behind Entrepreneurs Organization, or EO for short. So they started in 1987. They've currently got 17,000 influential business owners as their members, spread across 213 chapters in 60 plus countries worldwide. They've been in the UAE since 1997, and they've got 130 members in the UAE with an average revenue of $120 million
a combined employee base of 31,000 plus, and an average of 300 employees per company.
And they've got members from all sorts of industries, including technology, healthcare, oil and gas, real estate, hospitality, jewelry, communications, logistics, travel. I could really go on. Mind blown yet? Now, here's what EO is actually all about. Here's what you get for being a member of EO, or here's what they do for you. EO in UAE provides an effective platform for networking, education, and support for business owners. The entrepreneurial journey can be lonely, and I can attest to that. And with an economy that changes on a dime, it can be hard to know what your next move should be. And that's where EO comes in with their support. One of the key benefits of membership is access to a robust calendar of events, including workshops, social events, and learning opportunities. So you get a ton of networking opportunities as well as a chance to learn from experts in your own field. EO also offers a mentorship program, so they pair you up with experienced business leaders who can offer guidance and support as you grow your own business. So for me, I've personally or vicariously benefited a lot from being in the EO network through their accelerator program, of which my partner is a part of. And if you're a business owner tired of taking on your challenges all alone and are looking for unique networking opportunities, along with structured support through accountability groups and mentors, well, you can either start a podcast like I did, or if you don't want to do that, I highly encourage you to apply to EO. I'll leave a link for you in the show notes. And if you're not fully convinced yet, I'll be bringing on business owners on this podcast that are currently members of EO, including today's guest, so you can get a sneak peek of what you're getting. Dr. Sassan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming here. We're going to be talking a lot about business stuff, but before that, I want to get one debate out of the way.
Oh.
Paddle or tennis?
It seems you have done some background checks on me.
I won't reveal my sources, but a little birdie did tell me to ask you that.
Okay. Well, paddle has taken over, I must admit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tennis was the total favorite, but last 6 months I haven't touched a tennis racket anymore.
No ways.
No, paddle is daily.
Really? 6-7 days a week? Daily?
Yes. And sometimes 2 times, sometimes 3 times.
You're addicted.
A day.
You know what? I haven't picked it up yet.
I follow my wife.
Oh, she's doing it too?
Well, she did it fast.
Yeah. I've missed the trend. I haven't started yet. So I used to play squash. So people told me if I can play squash, I can play this. But I'm playing football 3 times a day. So I'm trying to fit in paddle as well. But now you have a recommendation. So
highly addictive.
Yeah. Where do you go in Dubai?
Most of them are in Algoz in Dubai.
Yeah.
I play mostly at a place called Paddle Art.
Okay.
Well, there's a
not sponsored by Paddle Art.
No, not sponsored. There's a big group we have, and it's well organized, and you just put your name in the days you want and timings you want, and it's all structured and fairly leveled against the levels of each other.
Nice.
So we don't have the headache of organizing it.
Okay. I
on
think
the
I have
weekends
to pick it up.
gets then more intense.
Yeah. No, it's a fun group activity too, right? Like and gender-wise too. It's friendly for both genders too. So
everyone can play, children.
Yeah. There's a thing happening in the US called pickleball. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's very similar.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've heard it, watched it.
But it's no paddle.
Not paddle.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, well, that means I'm putting this on camera. I got to try paddle because Dr. Sassan has mentioned. I want to ask you another question though. Now we're getting back into the business side of things. How's Frank? How's Frank doing?
It seems you have a lot of sources.
Yeah, I do. How do you
know about Frank?
Well, you're going to tell us about Frank. I want my audience to hear this because I actually love this concept. I want to know how you came up with Frank, who Frank is, how often you reference Frank in your team meetings and stuff like that. What was the origination of Frank? And tell us who Frank is.
The origination is from our business coach. And in the scientific or marketing language is your ideal customer profile, which is not really only a company, but actually the person for whom you're doing a job. Ultimately, your customer is a person, an individual who makes a decision. So we did a lot of research to come up with Frank. I'm not sure why we came up with the name Frank, but it's Frank. And for us, Frank, at the time, Frank evolves. But at the time, Frank was Asian male, mid-aged, 40 to 50, polished shoes, no ties, to that detail. And you would be astonished that 80% of Franks, really, if you looked at them, you would instantly have a smile on your face and say, that's Frank. I get that. That's really Frank. And all purposes, when you have the ideal customer profile clearly identified, you shortcut the process. Because if you come into the place and it's a male, different nationality, 10 years younger, suited with polished shoes and a tie, you already know 80% it's not going to go your way. And you shortcut your decision. And so you really look for a profile of a company and the individual behind it.
So if 80% of them are Franks, do you have a name for the other 20%? We should give them a name now. We should.
No, we omit that.
Yeah, we omit that.
They're losing out, so we have to omit that.
Yeah, we don't even pay attention.
We have an office in Kenya. Frank is different. It's actually, we said Frankine. It's female, 25 to 35 in procurement, Kenyan origin, African, specifically not Asian, because our customers are not very conscious about price, more about quality. That plays into Frank as well. So it's in different markets and segments, even it can be a different Frank in a sense. So it's quite.
I like that because you don't have to keep repeating the customer. You're humanizing the actual customer a lot more through the use of symbols. And I'll be very honest with you. When I was back in my corporate days, our company used to come up with these kind of symbols all the time, right? In the corporate world, they do. And unluckily, I was a part of a bad crowd that would secretly hide and make fun of these things. Like, oh, the management is talking about XYZ symbol now. How uncool is that? And it's so forced. Two things have changed since I've felt like that. One is I've kept my distance from people like this, and I keep them away at least 100 miles. And secondly, now that I've started my own business, I keep looking for these analogies too. So I've changed sides on the table, and I'm looking for more. So I want to hear, apart from Frank, and Frank is visible like in your offices too, right? Like you have like a whole character.
How deep is your investigation?
Very
you
deep.
send someone to the office?
You might, in the last 1 week, if someone visited you with a hat and like, a hoodie,
seems. You know way too much.
Must have been me.
Even in my home, it seems.
Oh, we'll get to that too in a bit. But are there any other symbols that you have right now that I could take inspiration from? Because I'm looking, we have a remote team, but I still try to instill some of these. Tell me about any new one that you've come up with as something that could be on the wall or something that's been there for like 10 years at your offices. Is there any that stick out?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, Frank is personalized. So he looks like, what is it called? From Flintstones, the bigger one. Fred.
Yeah.
He looks like Fred Flintstone, a little bit Asian version though. And it's quite a friendly chap. So there are banners around of Frank. Find Frank is written on it.
Okay.
And there are these bubbles around it of who Frank is.
Yeah.
So he's around. There is another, of course, our culture boards are around. And our culture boards are a bit different to common culture boards. Well,
Tell me about them.
A business should have a purpose. Like, why is the business there? And then you have your core values, essentially, how we operate as a family. And we do have two specific brand promises, which you promise the market that you deliver irrespective of what your business is, which is then derived actually from the customers. So if you're customer-centric, which we are, we interviewed a lot of customers, and what do you really expect from us? What do you want us to deliver? And over time, and interviewing dozens, if not hundreds of customers, the brand promise developed. What do they expect from us? That is what we will deliver. And so these are culture boards, brand promises, core purpose that are manifested and developed. I would say slightly different for us. They have evolved over time, and they really are us. They have been developed by us. No one had a hand in it. So it's not designed by a consultant and then it's plastered around walls and this is your core purpose and this is your core values. Now preach them and live them. We actually first lived them and then we manifested them and said, okay, this is actually who we are and this are our family rules. So we have the 5 family rules, the 2 customer rules, and why we exist. And all of that really has nothing to do with what we do. So they could govern our business irrespective of what we do.
Yeah.
We could be a green business as we are now, electronic waste recycling. We could expand it to any other business and they would travel with us. And they say these are the things that travel also with the business, hopefully, long after the founder has passed or exited.
Yeah.
And that's actually the heritage of a company that would stay with the company. Its purpose, its values, its, promises.
Yeah, no, I think about that a lot, or recently I've started thinking about this a lot, and we'll come to that because it's very closely tied to the purpose, and I have a whole section where we'll discuss the purpose behind, because I really like the way you have talked about it before, but I want to have a different spin on it. So,
before we continue, I'll bring up two other things since you asked me what's on the walls.
Yeah,
there are two other posters on the walls that are. At the time, Agile and Business Coach took to very many businesses. There is a black poster and there is a blue poster. And one is called A players and one is called C players. And at the bottom of the blue poster is written, if you find yourself on this one, you're one of us. And on the other one is written in the bottom, if you find yourself repeatedly on this poster, it's time to render your resignation.
Wow.
So it's quite hefty.
Can you give me some points from the C player one and the A player one to see how you phrase them?
Let's start with the A player because that's what we're always looking for.
Yeah.
Some of the phrases are similar to you don't need a manager, you seek the manager, bring it on, whatever it is. Similar phrases. So as an A player, you're always in charge. You never wait to be asked. You take control of your life. You take control of your existence. You take ownership till the end of what you do. A C player, most common phrase is everyone and everything else is responsible, but not you. That's the most common denominator. And another funny one is that, commonly they overestimate their existence. C players are very commonly quite full of themselves as well. So there are 5 aspects on our C player poster and about 10 aspects on the A player poster. And our business coach liked it a lot. He asked for permission, in terms of copywriting to use it with other businesses. And they made it into many businesses that he would coach and mentor.
I'm going to steal that too.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be in my business. It's like almost asking for a self-identification of if you are type A and or a player A. What did you call them?
A player and C player.
And C player. Huh.
Yeah, it goes all back to the top grading and A players, B players, C players, and so on. But we said, how can you define this? We're not going to put just a tag, a performance number.
Yeah.
And say, okay, you have performed 80%, so you're A player. It's not purely based on performance, right? You have the axis of core value alignment.
Yes.
So you measure also your values in that axis of A player, B player.
Yeah.
But we went a step further. We said, let's put attributes that we think are typical attributes. And if you find yourself occasionally on the C player board, that's also fine. It doesn't mean that you are a C player completely. It means just your current mindset was one of a C player. You got stuck in problems. You only saw the problems. You didn't see any solutions, and everyone else was responsible for those problems but you. Then you might receive a reminder that your current statement, where did you find it? On the black one or on the blue one? And then you reflect on it and say, okay, maybe I should move.
Yeah.
But if you repeatedly do find yourself on the blackboard, then
like 80% of the time you feel like you're in the...
Then it's a bit hopeless.
Yeah. No, I you know what? When I was in my early 20s, if I had seen that, I would have at least known who to avoid hanging out with at work. Because I worked for Fortune 500 companies, so we had large teams. And these characteristics that you're talking about, because you're young and you're impressionable and you can... Whoever's older than you is wiser than you when you're starting out, right? You're learning. And if I had those on the boards, on the walls, these kind of things, at least would have guided me towards that. So that's really good. Yeah, I like that. You know what's funny? I was going to ask. What else did you find? I was going to ask about players because I did my research. I was in the office and I wasn't.
I am concerned.
You should be.
I am highly concerned.
You should be. I know where you live. I have no idea where you live.
you said you know where I work, what's on the walls, where I spend my leisure time, all these things. So I'm highly concerned. My first business review podcast.
Yeah. I think the police number is 999.
999.
Check it out.
Not sure if I get out of the studio, handcuffed or closed.
It's closed in.
Yes.
Security guards are outside. But moving on. I want to talk about challenges, but I want to talk about them a little differently. So usually
in retrospect, it's easy to identify what challenges you had and how you took steps to solve them, right? I want to just check with you, and this is something I don't have any information on, I promise you. What's keeping you up at night these days? What is a big challenge that you're solving right now? And the reason I ask this, I want to see the kind of mental models and mental frameworks you're kind of applying. So you don't have to, like, if it's confidential, you can keep it confidential. But is there something in the business that's quite challenging right now, and how are you working towards its solution? Or if you've identified, or it could be smooth sailing, and this could be like, yeah, I have no problems.
No, it's
right
not
now.
smooth sailing at all.
Yeah.
So we operate in 2 countries. The challenges are different. Well, before maybe I dive further into it, I constantly remind myself of a phrase that I coined myself in the early days.
Yeah.
And I said, if you don't love solving challenges, don't be in business. Business is all about entrepreneurship. And it goes a little bit back. I loop a bit back and forth. It goes back to my year 1, where we set a business up for a certain purpose as a outsourced production facility, produce here and ship back to Germany. That plan collapsed very quickly because our customer in Europe went actually bankrupt. So we're sitting on a lot of trouble here. And I listened into an interview with no one less than Bill Gates at that time, when I had sleepless nights. You know, the payroll of $100,000 in your year 1. You had invested a couple of million into the business, and your one customer just broke away. That's like fantastic business start, you know, it couldn't be better. And
yeah, that's when people say, I told you so. You shouldn't have left your job.
Yeah, I was told that, you know, being a corporate lawyer, 19th floor in Frankfurt next to Deutsche Bank, you've reached the pinnacle of the top 2%. And people say, what? Where are you going? Do they have an airport down there? So it was that bizarre back in 99.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I listened into that interview after very many sleepless nights, and as debt was piling up to the tune of 3 million, I said, what do you do? What do you do? And, you know, it's not easy. And in this interview, they asked him towards the end, it was a radio interview, total coincidence, or if you won't believe it, a message by the universe.
Yeah.
And he said, well, you know, over time I've learned to look at challenges and turn them into a virtue. It took me a bit of a while to understand it. But essentially, if you're chosen the role to be in business, you've chosen the role to deal with, you know, all the challenges. And sometimes I use the analogy of even as a manager or CEO, you are the janitor. You're keeping a big waste bin, a big bucket, and everyone comes and empties everything into it. Just you have nowhere else to go. You're the one who has to lift it, go empty it, and come refreshed back so everyone can pour again everything into it. And that's kind of your role, and you need to understand from those days that I used the analogy of cars when I simplified what Bill Gates said in his interview. I said, if you drive a car and it's out of petrol, what would you do? I'll ask you, what would you do?
I would find a gas station.
Right. Would you get out of your car and start kicking it and say, why the hell is it out of petrol?
No, just look for the nearest gas station.
Doesn't sound, no?
Yeah.
You get traffic fines.
Yeah.
Right? You go pay them.
Yeah.
You have accidents, unfortunate. You continue driving.
Yeah.
You could have fatal accidents.
Yeah.
You definitely have service requirements and insurance, costs a lot of money.
Yeah, you can't just leave your car on the side of the road and start walking.
How many times do you curse at your car? How many times you're frustrated with your car?
Yeah.
Generally speaking, you step into your car with a big smile. And why is that? The car gives you freedom, freedom to move. You step into your car, it's your familiar environment, it gives you freedom to drive wherever you want. And that's like a big feeling for everyone.
Yeah.
And they do it with a smile. Every single day, every time they step into the car, they're smiling.
Yeah.
Their car bears an immensely high risk of life. You can lose your life, and unfortunately hundreds of people lose their lives daily. In the on world context, hundreds of thousands of people. In the UAE, I think, I don't know, 300-400 people a year or something. That's just losing life, losing a limb or causing the death of someone else, or humongous bills, you know, horrifying bills, and you're still using that with a smile. So when you're in business, you have chosen to deal with these challenges. Why are you not driving with a smile?
Mm-hmm.
That's part of driving a business. It's just part of it. Fueling it are smaller things,
Yeah.
right? And insurance and traffic fines and so on are a bit bigger. Accidents are unfortunately a bit bigger.
Yeah, but the convenience and the freedom.
The convenience and
Unmatched.
freedom. So I need to remind myself every single time when the challenges seem exorbitant, and I can, dive a little bit into current challenges.
Yes.
But when the challenges seem a bit exorbitant, then you think, okay, remind yourself, you chose this.
Yeah.
You chose it for a certain reason.
Yeah.
Enjoying the freedom. Don't look at these challenges as something alien. It's part of running a business.
Mm-hmm.
Small or big, you will see them everywhere.
Yeah.
You will see it even on major corporates.
I think I recently heard Elon Musk say this too. He's like, being the founder or the CEO, you get the pick of the worst problems in the business. Because if they're small problems, people are looking after them. But you at the top, you're going to get the shittiest problems, the nastiest problems, and they're always going to be on your desk because there's no one other than you that can have the perspective to solve them. So he basically said it's one of the worst jobs in the world, but also the most rewarding.
And imagine you wouldn't have a smile.
Yeah.
And imagine, despite of all problems, you wouldn't come back to office with all the energy and freshness. And again, part of leadership, remind people of the vision, remind people of the direction, and inspire people to still move ahead despite of any problems. Starting from COVID, what we experienced, and my industry, like the office industry, as what we do, severely hit. We lost millions and millions. We lost overall last 2-3 years, we lost 70% of our revenues. So it's a massive loss.
For the last 3 years.
Yes, and recovery is also not happening. So diving into the current challenges here, recovery is not happening because a lot of jobs were eliminated not to come back. So if we compare like for like, best case scenario is we're on 70% of pre-COVID.
Right.
A lot of jobs have been outsourced to cheaper localities. One of our very prominent retail customers, they're outsourcing to Egypt. There's a tenth of the cost for offices and employment.
Yeah.
So, that recovery is not happening. So you need to keep pivoting. At the same time, there's a lot of competition, right?
Yeah.
Competition is very fierce here and very ruthless. And you need, from our perspective, we're used to be always the market leader in our specific industry. So as a market leader, every of our 200 competitors is attacking us.
Yeah.
Whether it's trying to take our staff away, whether it's the business model, whatever we do, they copy. They have nothing better to do than copying us. We have seen dozens coming, hitting us, and unfortunately they do hurt you at times as well. They do not survive because their sole mission, when your sole mission is someone else and greed, you will not survive. When your sole mission is the client, you will survive. We have survived 24 years. The best of them survive 2, 3, 4 years, and then they're out as well. But it does pinch you and hurt you, and these battles. And we keep reinventing ourselves, and most recently pivoted again just about a few months back to come up with a brand new concept that kind of revolutionizes our market, come up with an irresistible offer that clients could not say no to at all.
Yeah.
We can speak about that as well a bit later if you want.
Yeah.
But these kind of challenges we face always. So obviously, any business, it's always about cash flow, which is the reality. We, in old days, and I would say 90% of entrepreneurs look at the profit and loss statement, P&L, and then they see numbers and they get high and they say, oh, it looks great, but wow, fantastic, revenue is growing. But going to my business in Kenya, it's growing. Touch wood, there's a lot of wood around
on
here.
paper.
So it's always growing since inception, 7 years, year on year. And it's always been profitable, touch wood. And just now I came back from Nairobi on Saturday, and the team was discussing how come we are not paying our bills to Dubai. The accounts payable is increasing and increasing, and we are not stemming our bills. By now it's 1.3 million that we need to pay. So we looked at the last 6 months, and on the P&L everything looks pretty. Then you say, okay, profit is there, which is sanity. They say it looks also pretty.
Yeah.
And then you go into the balance sheet where, 95% never go. And I say, what happened? You say, oh, my accounts receivable actually in Kenya went even up, better, as in down. So we improved. So where is the cash? Whoa, the inventory swelled to a 5 months inventorization. So in shillings, inventories increased by 6 million. So instead of shrinking by 2 million, they grew by 6 million. So you have 8 million over inventorized in Kenyan shillings. And that's where your cash is sitting. And that's these answers no one gives you in business.
It's not as liquid as you wanted.
No. And so there we face very different current challenges. Of course, there were elections. When elections happen in Africa, kind of everything stalls. No one invests, no one moves, no one spends, no one pays. So, and then came the global, challenges with Ukraine and inflation everywhere. So Kenya is being, as a net importer, particularly hard hit. So the currency over the last 2 years has come from 100 shillings to the dollar to 150 shillings to the dollar.
Wow.
And at times it's jumping by 5 shillings a week, so you don't know what happens. So whatever, our own office owned our office here is now 50% more they need to generate to be able to transfer. And so you're catching up with your prices, and it's almost hyperinflation, you can say. I mean, not hyper, it goes
double
into
inflation, right?
Yes.
Like there's inflation on locally, and then because they're a net importer and the shilling is a times and a half more or devalued.
So there you can say your business is actually healthy. It's a different kind of challenge you're dealing with. Your business setup is healthy, it's growing, it's profitable.
Like your offer is fine, your customer penetration is fine, but there's no cash. Mm-hmm. And then you have to pay the bills, and then it'll all come crashing down if it's...
That's ultimately always the biggest test for any entrepreneur, small or big.
Yeah.
When you pay the bills at the end of every month, the paychecks and everything, that's when some people start sweating,
Yeah. We have a runway calculator built in from day one into the business. So our business, we're lucky we don't have to purchase inventory. It's service-based. Our only investment was a laptop that we already had. And we were working from home. So we were profitable from day one and cash healthy, luckily, from day one. And it reminds me of a quote from Naval Ravikant. I don't know if you know him. But he said, I hope you have your failure as soon as possible. Because the sooner you have it, the stronger you'll be in the future of your business. We got pretty lucky in the first 3 years, 0 problems in that way, right? We charged.
Did you do the calculation correct? Which means did you put a fair salary towards the headcounts? Because as a service business, that's your cost of business.
We paid ourselves salaries, throughout, like from day one.
A market relevant salary.
Yeah, market relevant. A bit less. A bit less.
Still,
but it was comparable to what I was getting as an employee. It wasn't too far off with shares in the business plus having a healthy salary. And then getting our clients to pay upfront instead of, so no credit to clients at all, absolutely. And the opposite of credit is we don't start until you can pay. And that would disqualify a lot of people. So we had less clients, but we had good cash flow.
Yes.
So we could chase a bit of like, let's get the business, even with the 30-day, 60-day things. And for our costs, our employees were paid after 30 days, which is our biggest cost for our people. So we had a bit of a 30-day gap between those two. But COVID comes around, or post-COVID comes around, receivables start going up. That's when I put in the calculator for Runway, which Alina and I show her every month. I'm like, if we were to stop receiving money today and we lose all our clients today, this is how many months we have left. And it's not in a healthy place that I would like it to be. For me, it changes all the time. It's like, maybe I need 12 months of runway, which means like her and I need to have our life expenses covered, plus some one-off expenses. If we were to fire everyone today and we get fired by all the clients today, how long do we have to figure something out? Yeah. And I think I want 12 months. Part of me wanted 5 years, but that's. I think
in business, I've heard
ambitious.
3 to 6 months would be very healthy, specifically for the business. So if you had 3 to 6 months, 3 months actually is hardly situations come up. Even if you think back about COVID, if you had 3 months zero income, how much cash did you need? If you had 3 months, your total expenditure, obviously without selling the product cost, but the operational costs.
3 months is good enough.
That should usually secure you massively. And I mean, 6 months is ideal. But because
I'm at 6 months total, right now, but I'm worried. Like 6 months feels like too little for me, right? Because 6 months pass like this. I'd feel like it should be larger, but then again.
Because in reality, the business, you have assets, you have the AR, you have accounts receivable, and in reality, hardly ever it goes to 0.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, if you had pick a number, if your monthly total expenditure cost is 10 dirham and you had 60, it's not that you will go to 0.
True.
Even if you drop by 50%, you go to 5 dirhams. If you go up to 25%, you're at 2 dirham 50.
True.
So it takes a long way. That's 6 months.
Yeah. But it's better to be pessimistic about that number, and then, you know, whatever comes on top is vacation money.
Yeah. But you're coming from the financial segment. I mean, how many entrepreneurs who start do you think really look at the runway and look at these things?
Terrible advice. Actually, I wanted to ask you. We'll come back to your current challenges, but as new entrepreneurs, Alina and I were getting tons of advice, as everyone likes to give, because it's cheap and it's readily available. Well-intentioned, well-meaning people. You know, they're trying to look after us. And I also strongly believe that some of the advice we received was either really bad or like, you know, this one guy had an epiphany after VAT came out 2 years later. He's like, guys, when you collect VAT, keep that separately because you need to pay that. I'm like, that is obvious to me, right? But I wanted to ask you, if you would jog your memory, when you were first starting out, what's some of the worst advice that you were receiving about entrepreneurship? Or even today, what do you think something that is floating around that is just bad advice for entrepreneurs? Could be cash related, could be board governance related, could be anything else.
Oh my God, there is so much.
Yeah, because like I want to make a list of things to ignore. So what should I, according to you?
There is so much, but I'll pick one of my favorite ones, and I think it's very important. So for me, failure is not an option. I'm completely contradictory to what everyone says failure is an option. I do think that within a business, you can have fast iterations and you can try, fail, try to pivot. I don't like to use the word pivot, but I think in the first time in 24 years, I did pivot 3 months ago. So I use now pivot because I completely changed how we offer our product to the market. I mean, I think that fail your business or fail frequently is fine in the Western culture, particularly in the US culture, where they like to go bankrupt, write it off, start due. It has to do with the setup of those countries. I mean, how can you come in regional context to a place like here where bouncing of a check or a commercial debt is just in the process of being decriminalized. It's not yet fully decriminalized. And then say failure is an option. No, failure is not an option.
Yeah.
Failure is an option that puts you behind bars. You know, it's not easy.
Yeah.
If you owe millions to the market and you have given checks which everyone expects to banks and car finances and whatever, and then you cannot pay, it's a very precarious situation. But that's not only that. I think that's the origin of failure is good in the US. I think failure is good in iterations. You bring a product to market, fail fast, try a week, something out.
Controlled experiments.
Controlled experiments. It is responsive, then enhance it and continue. If it's really great, fully, completely go all out.
Yeah.
If it's a failure, can it also very fast, and pride should not then stand in the way. You came up with a brand concept, with the packaging, with a product rendition that no one is receiving. I mean, it's a funny story. When we started export, and our focus was Africa a bit. So I had this image in my mind that I wanted the packaging for we produce remanufactured toner cartridges, right? That's how we started, at least. So I had in mind this packaging that is a little bit, in sandy, earthy colors, reddish, brownish, like Africa a bit. And then brand name, which is now lives very well, but in a very different way. It was called Lion. So the box came out. The packaging was designed by someone. It was commonly referred to as the tissue box. So are you selling Kleenex? It looked really ridiculous when you looked at it, and we still have the box in the office in display, and it just didn't come out. And our guys tried selling it, and customers said, we love the product, we love the pricing, great concept, great idea, if you want to buy, but not in this box. It just looked horrendous. I put the pride aside. I said, all right, we need to get it right. We immediately canned it, even though we had a run of a couple of thousand, whatever we did, 5,000 boxes. We went to an industrial designer whose specialty was industrial product packaging design. He had worked for Pepsi and major companies, and he said, he was very professional. He said, what do you want from this box? This. So it went out of the way, and the new box was born. That's just a simple example of iterations. You can fail with a product. You can fail in a project. You can, even when we opened the foreign market like Kenya, from the very beginning we said, if you do not make that business cash flow positive within 12 months, it's an experiment, you're going to shut it down. It's not the head office, right? It's an outpost.
But you're not betting the entire business. You're betting a part of it.
Yeah. We put a budget out. We said 600,000. That's the cash upfront we'll put into that. We start the business. We had the hiccups. Month 5, we needed to change the person at the head of the office. We did. We found someone new, took it on. We told the same person, month 12, the office is either cash flow positive or we shut it down. And by month 11, it became on the monthly cycle cash flow positive. And now we're looking 7 years into it. But I would have not felt bad about shutting that down. That was a clear, measurable experiment that we had in our mind. Small or big, whether it's, again, packaging or whether it's a marketing collateral or it's a new market that you're tapping into. It's fine to have a controlled experiment and fail at experiment. But the common notion, fail often, fail fast, that for me, to use the polite English word, is complete bollocks. Failure is not an option.
I agree with you. One of the heroes I look up to, or I'm a hero of his ideas, Nassim Taleb, he talks about survival being the first and primary purpose that we as humans have, animals have. Like, that's the first thing that we need to think about. So when we went through a rough patch with our business being in minus 5% loss, minus 10% loss, but we had cash in the bank. So we were and at that time, Lena was like, how do we grow? And keep in mind, we're in business now for 4 years. So this was a year ago. And I said, I just want to get to the 8-year mark in being in business. I just want to survive. I don't care about heavy profits. I don't care about bringing in the biggest employees. And
why was that for you? Because you belong to the 25%?
I don't know.
That survived versus the 75% that don't exist after 5 to 7 years?
Are you familiar with the Lindy effect? So
No.
Something that has survived for...
Don't ask me these questions that I look bad, You do know this author, this effect, and,
we're just
I look
getting
bad
started.
here,
We're just getting started. So you've been around 24 years in this business.
Okay.
I would be willing to bet that you'd be around for another 24 years. It's just the longer you've been in existence, and this could be for a trend, for a cultural moment, something that has stood the test of time is likely to also stand the test of time, unless the innovator's dilemma kicks in and then, you get disrupted.
The average age of companies has come down to?
What?
It used to be 60, 70 years and odd, but now it's come down to 14 years.
Average age of the company?
Yeah. That's of those who survive.
Yeah.
Not including the ones 75%
the ones
fail.
that shut down,
Do you know another fun number?
Tell me.
How many ever reach $1 million? What percentage of those who survive?
Is it under 20?
Oh, wait. It's 5.
Oh, wow.
The percentage of those exceeding $5 million, 0.6. Now, this could move, but these are the numbers I quote from some of my executive education in the US. But these are staggering numbers if you think.
Yeah.
I just looked at another fun number.
Tell me.
Up yesterday before I came. I thought he's going to ask me business and what is important and are ideas important. I said, I knew ideas are not important. Ideas are the least important of any business. You could have any idea. So I thought, let me look for a fun number. And then I said, patents. Patents are the strongest idea. A lot of morons in the US say you should have IP protection. IP is great. So I looked up patents. From any patent that is filed, and I'm not talking about the thousands and thousands of patents that people think to file. From the patents that are filed, only 3% make it to a patent. To a patent, 2.8% actually. So 100 filings, 2.8 make it to a patent. So
to an official patent,
Yeah, so you need 120 filings, right, to get 3 registrations. So 40 filings for 1 registration.
Okay.
What number do you think makes it commercially success.
Wait, how many turn into a prototype?
That's what I'm saying. Commercial success is only 3% of those who are filed. So you're actually coming from 1,200 patent filings to one commercial success.
Yeah.
1,200. And patent is the strongest form of idea. It's an innovation, tested, proven, is something novel, new technology. Is new, guaranteed.
Yeah.
And only one makes a success.
Out of 1,000.
1,200. One makes a success. So what is the relevance of idea in business?
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah.
Completely zero. It all boils down to execution.
100%.
What keeps you together is your tribe.
Yeah.
And that's where purpose and values come into picture, where you say, once you have deserved some kind of a right of existence, and it's not about profiteering and greed and money, it's something else that keeps a tribe together. Which tribe would stick together if they haven't seen salaries for 6 months or a year? Our inception year story back in 2000. People stuck. They believed in something.
How many of those people are still with you?
Yeah, there's still a bunch of them there.
Yeah.
20 years into it, yeah.
I love it.
And COVID, similar story. You know, people run away or stick to it if you have adjustments in the income.
Yeah.
COVID year, we did a very fair adjustment system. We said everyone gets minimum 50%. Well, we thought it's fair. At least we proposed it, we voted, and everyone accepted it. So quite democratic. We said everyone gets a minimum 50% based on the 50% revenue that we estimate. And then every 10% revenue goes up, 10% the salaries go up. We managed 68% throughout the COVID 9 months, the hard March to December of 2020.
So your financials are open to the staff in terms of like
Just
top line?
Our numbers are on the
whatnot.
walls.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
because even bottom lines, top lines are critical because we follow agile a bit. So we have our scrum boards, we have our data boards open in our conference room. People know where we stand, what we produce. In fact, in COVID, it's a good question you asked. Because we tied the income, we put up 2 TV monitors in the production and upstairs. So the current sales number was up there. Every single element in the company was after, what do we do? Where we can sell something extra? So are we hitting the next 10% slab?
Yeah.
And the final quarter of the year, we had reached 78%. And then from 1st Jan 2021, we went again to full salaries.
Yeah.
Where it was transparent, it was open. TV monitors were monitoring daily, current sales, where we stand. And everyone accountable and transparent could see where it's heading.
Failure is not an option then.
Not at all.
When it's, you have to find a way out. I want to pivot the conversation back to your pivot, which you're calling a pivot, because so you're reinventing again. I heard you say somewhere, again, in my extensive research, at every 7 years, right? That was the number.
Where do you pick that stuff up? Everywhere you know everything about me.
Every 7 years. Is that now 7 years since your last reinvention, would you say? Is it coming like clockwork?
It's 2000, 2008.
2023 now.
2013. Yeah, it's pretty much the first 7 years.
Is this
but it is a bit of an
complete change of your business, or is it an evolution?
No, it's an evolution.
Yeah.
It's not a complete change, but it's a little bit like the Apple phone, right? When iPhone came to market, you had screens, you had processors, you had chips, everything was there, nothing was new.
Yeah.
Just how it was put together was new. So everything on what we do more or less existed. It's just how we put it together. So we started as a company remanufacturing print cartridges. I mean, we're a green company to start with. We are licensed to recycle electronic waste, which is a very wide spectrum. Our heritage goes back to the print cartridge. That's why people look at us as the toner guys, the print cartridge guys, but that's not the full reality of what we do. So the first rendition, we added services to it. We started with the toners, remanufacturing, selling. Then we added the services to it for the machines itself to cover for the people. Then we said, okay, now let's sell the machines. So we started selling machines, the printers itself. Then, as the markets evolved over time, then machines were too expensive for people, the bigger ones. So we said, okay, now what is green is not really selling new equipment. For us, that's not really green. So everything should be measured by a core purpose being green. So then we started refurbishing machines, which became a very major arm of our business. So we take the big HP copiers and then extend their life by another 5 years and put a warranty bundle on it.
And they were going to be trashed anyway. Like
they would be written off, trashed. If not from here, they go to nearby Asian countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Either they're salvaged, trashed, or exploited and used. But when we get them from Europe or Australia or US actually here, they're in pretty good condition because they're written off tax-wise. So like cars, you could say we take printers in that are running on 20, 30,000 kilometers. So they still have a good 100, 200,000 kilometers to go. And print volumes on the big machines, they can go 1.5, 2 million pages. We have a cap at 300,000 pages. The average is more around 150,000 that they have run.
Yeah.
So
I wish someone did this for phones.
They do.
They do that?
Yeah.
Extend the life of phones?
But we are in a premier market here, so they go out.
Yeah,
out of this market. They go to Africa, they go to Asia. So phones very popular. And again, it's also covered by our style of business. We did laptops as well, refurbishing laptops. And then we had to extend because people couldn't afford the expensive printers up front. So we had to extend finance. So we brought in finance. We worked with Europe's largest leasing company to finance the equipment. And one machine, fine. You cannot afford 16,000 or so up front for the machine. Dirhams. In this case, $4,000. But some customers have 100 machines. So that's upfront payment. Then is $400,000 or whatever. So that becomes significant. So we work with leasing and finance. So that was bundled in. Then came software requirements. So now all our customers have a software we call Print Fleet. That is a fleet management software. So this gives us visibility into their entire print environment. Color pages printed, mono pages printed, service requirements, trays open, damaged, whatever. So we can react, and replenishment alerts. And goes further. So this is all, adding it to it. Then it goes further to print management software where the customer can set budgets, secure printing, follow me printing, swipe cards and all that you need, like you were in corporate in the past.
Yes, I have to swipe,
the whole setup, right? So these are all individual products. So it's actually a lot of stuff, and each one has its own price tag. But as post-COVID and as in the past years, competition has become immensely dense, and Chinese providers, we would have probably 200 providers that resell Chinese toner cartridges here, and somewhat or the other tried to pinch us. Prices have dipped on the toner cartridge side, and the selling of it, the client acquisition cost has gone immensely up. So we said, what do we do now? So we said, let's focus on the biggest machine that HP runs, that we refurbish, because the small players don't have the technical ability to work on that biggest machine. And they do not have the technical ability to produce the toners and drum units that this machine requires. If they even acquired it, they don't have the clientele that would pay such prices. When they're selling their products at 40 dirham and 60 dirham and 80 dirham, they don't have the clientele where a set is 15,000 dirham or 30,000 dirham or 500,000 dirham.
Their franc is different.
Completely. So we said, let's come out of the red ocean and get into the blue ocean. Also, extremely important for any business person, when the market becomes so dense, your customers gain more control in terms of payment power, right? So on the toner cartridge side, payment cycles are now 4 months and 5 months easily. The big players take liberty to pay you in 6 to 9 months. The bigger they get, I don't want to name anyone, but the bigger they get, the payment cycles are even worse. 6 to 12 months payment cycle. So where do you have the cash to fuel your business? You end up in a situation that it costs you. So we said, how do we pivot out of this? And when everyone said, come on, what are you talking about pivoting? What is this fancy word pivoting? I don't understand pivoting. And I looked it up, trust me, at least a dozen times in the dictionary that it means like this and that and whatever. I said, what rubbish that is. I think I thought it's rubbish because I just didn't understand it. And I reached a situation, it's a few months back only, where we said, all right, the machines people don't take because they have to pay a lot up front. Finance, they don't want because they don't want to sign 3-year fixed term agreements with banks and have obligations with banks. It has to go to CEO's authority. CEO will immediately ask why you're going for finance. Don't you have the cash? So it's complicated. Managed print services, which I forgot to mention between, is bundling and charging per copy printed. So that's also kind of bundling of everything you have.
So you give the machine, but the
machine, supplies, service, software, and everything, and they pay you per page consumed. That became post-COVID also nearly impossible. Because in COVID, when the lockdown happened, people had to pay the minimum fixed amounts monthly. So you can imagine in the context of a corporate that prints 1 million dirhams or 1.5 million dirhams worth a year. So they're paying 100,000 dirhams fixed a month. And smaller corporates, they're paying 5, 10, 20,000 fixed a month. COVID, lockdown, office shutdown, they still have to pay it. So post-COVID, there is an allergy towards MPS, Managed Print Service Agreements. So now we have the machine, we have the suppliers, we have the market. But how do you penetrate it, fast track, and how can you really scale? So we started putting our brains together. I read this book about predictably unpredictable, it's called, I think. I got you this time, huh?
Predictably unpredictable.
Yes.
Dan
it's about,
something?
Oh man, you know it. I
Dan
thought I got you
Riley,
on. I thought I got you on one book at least.
Oh,
so I was reading this chapter about free and the psychology of free and the impact on people. And I said, how about, I take this machine which I sell for 16,000 refurbished, and I say it's for free. I come to you and say it's for free. That's not good enough, but I have the supplies in it, I have the service, so you get all of that, and you have a minimum consumption, and you pay me actually now all of a sudden up front because you're getting a huge value. On one machine, I help you save 80,000 dirhams over 5 years versus HP, the same machine. But here's the beauty. If you take that big machine and you compare it with a smaller machine, in HP, the smaller the machine, the higher the operating cost.
That intuitively makes sense, but I'm not sure how.
Well, it's logical. They sell a machine for 1,500 dirhams. They rip you off on the supply side. So if you buy the machine for 1,500 dirhams, you're paying 19,000 dirhams for 32,000 pages. When you buy the machine for 30,000 dirhams, you're paying 11,000 dirhams for 32,000 pages. So the difference is massive.
That's massive, yeah.
And if you buy a 4 series or 5 series, HP's domination is like BMW's. So they have 1 series to 8 series, 8 series being the biggest. So the more expensive and bigger the machine, the lower the operating cost. So we went to the biggest machine with the lowest operating cost, and we reduced HP's pricing from 11,000 on the printing cost to 6,800. And we give you the machine for free with an extension of 5 years warranty and service. All of a sudden we say,
that's a no-brainer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We knew what we had to do from free. We could not say free. You know why? Customers thought it's so good.
It can't be true.
It can't be true. So in our marketing collateral, we had to go back and say it's an exchange program, a trade-in. We take your old one, we give you this one for free. Because otherwise they thought, okay, we are crazy.
Yeah.
And I just came back from a trip in Nairobi. We closed a major hotel chain.
Yeah.
Same day, decision making, 30 minutes. Next day, 2 machines already rolled out, potential 51 machines, right? So now add up your numbers.
Yeah.
That's called pivoting. So we look at increasing the numbers to 4,000 to 5,000 printers over the next 2 years placed in the markets. As for me, it's the first time I'm looking at a genuine scaling opportunity where my offer is totally irresistible. I'm in a blue ocean.
Yeah.
It's commercially super sound for the client. There's no fine print that you can find that beats this offer.
Yeah.
And for us, it's cash driving in advance, right? Because
it solves multiple problems.
Because you're putting a big asset value in, so you have to pay that in advance. Deployment is 3 days later, and no one is arguing that.
Sales cycle is smaller.
Sales cycle is an hour. It's literally an hour. It's not like... that one I can say. We're working with Amazon now the last 6 months to start the toner cartridge business.
Yeah.
We've run ample number of trials or accepted. We are way past trials and product qualification. We are in bureaucracy of rolling out. Amazon US needs to sign this document and that document, and bins need to be here and that needs to be there. 6 months. These machines are put in a day, in 2 days in the market, and the dozens and hundreds. And so we started it recently, and the numbers are good, and it's really designed.
Yeah.
And I think it's the first time I understood what pivoting means. It's really designed to take off. Yeah. It's commercially sound on all sides, for the client, for us, financially, cash-wise, competition-wise, blue ocean.
Yeah.
And until our competition wakes up and acquires the technology, I don't think red ocean, blue ocean, the advantage is not 10 years anymore. The advantage is 2 to 3 years. It's not even 5 anymore.
Yeah.
So we have to run super fast in the next 2 to 3 years until competition wakes up and catches up.
That's something the gentleman outside, Vok, my ex-boss, is telling me about. Something about this studio, right? And I won't mention it on camera because we want to save that.
And knowing that the idea is not the execution more important than the idea, but his philosophy was similar to yours. He was saying that when I come out with it, with the offer, we have a new offer, that we're going to go so deep into it that before anyone tries to catch up, we've already cornered the market.
That's the name of the game, yeah.
Right? And do it with good preparation and come out with it with 120% force. So by the time people start hearing about it, understanding it, having board meetings about should we do this or should we not do this, it's 2 years have gone by.
Yeah.
And
well, you have to do that's where failing is okay, by the way. That's where we did the iterations.
Yeah.
When machine to market, customer rejected, too expensive.
Yeah.
Leasing, rejected, too expensive. We take over the leasing. We discounted even by 20%. No, we don't want fixed term contracts post-COVID. So you iterate, fail, iterate, fail, iterate, fail. 1 month cycle, 1 week cycle, 2 month cycle, fail, 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 fail.
Yeah.
And then we bundled it all of a sudden, just like the Apple phone I was alluding to. Everything that we had, software, machine, technology, product, service, was existing. Yeah. All of a sudden, we just bundled it differently together, and it came out a beautiful iPhone.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened to our offering. So testing, new entrepreneurs testing your product and finding paying customers. Yeah. You know what put us into a position to take this on? In the first 3 days, we put this out. In 3 days, we placed 5 machines in the market. So my old story is, if you sell 1, you can sell 10. If you can sell 10, you can sell 100. If you can sell 100, you can sell 1,000, and then it goes on. That has been my entrepreneurial philosophy.
Yeah.
So to anyone listening, to anyone who's interested about entrepreneurship, sell 1. Don't be concerned about selling 1 million.
Yeah.
When you have sold 1, sell 10. That's the next 9. When you have managed that, be concerned about reaching 100. Then the story will unfold on its own.
I love it.
And another fun number. I hope it's correct. I picked it up, I think, somewhere in Boston in one of the courses as well.
Yeah.
The average age the companies hit, you won't hit that right. Otherwise, I leave the studio disappointed if we get that right.
Shall we put a bet on it?
Let's put a bet. The average age of companies that scale up.
How do you define scale up?
Scale up, companies start and then they have so they're the surviving ones. They grow, I should not say what number of years, but they do grow like kind of a bit linear. And then
there's a hockey stick.
They get a little bit of a hockey stick.
Yeah.
That's still not scaling. They have a rapid growth phase.
Okay.
And after the rapid growth phase, they hit a bit of a zigzag.
Okay.
Because now structure, people, procedures have become a bit more complicated. The same team who took it from 0 to 1 is not the one that will take it from 1 to 5.
Yeah.
And not from 5 and beyond. And scaling is about 5 US and upwards.
Okay.
Right? And then you hit the zigzag and you hit the 5 US. And the beauty is, there is another beautiful statistic. If you hit the 5 US, you kind of sail through to the 25 US like smooth sailing.
Mm-hmm.
Open your beer, umbrella, yacht. It kind of goes smooth, because if you figure that crack, it's not many companies can reach 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Not many. We understood that that's quite a small percentage. But hitting 5 and above is like, a sound barrier. It's like a really tough sound barrier. But once you hit it, you sail really smooth outwards. So what is that? How many years in operation on average for the scaling to happen? For all our impatient entrepreneurs who want to be millionaires in 1 year.
First of all, thank you for bringing up the patience part. And I need to remind myself before I give you the number. I need daily reminders to myself about this, just this, patience. This shit takes time. Like, it takes a lot of time. So let's say, I also get impatient because I started late. I think we were around the same age. Correct me if I'm wrong. I was around 33 when I started my business. And I look at all these 20-year-olds and they're starting now. And I'm like,
I started at the same age,
Yeah, so we're on the same age. And I'm looking at when I'm 60, I'll only have 25 years of business. So the other day I told Alina, I'm like, we're not going anywhere. We're not doing anything else for another 20, 25 years. So that would be my guess. 20, 25 years.
I should leave the studio. How do you know
really?
all these things?
It's really? No, I'm guessing. This is
why are you guessing
guess.
this much?
It's
People
my lucky
say
day.
3 years, 1 year, 2 years.
How close am I?
I'm highly disappointed.
How close
24.
am I? Oh.
Did you pick that up somewhere else as well? You've done your job pretty right.
No,
huh?
honestly, I
years.
didn't do this, but like this
years.
is what I'm feeling. This is just a gut thing. But 24 years
24 years.
seems about right.
Yeah.
It seems about right. Like
You have the stamina, you build the culture, you build the people, you build everything, and then,
yeah.
of course, there is still risk of not being there, but when you get it right, and then you pivot to the right model eventually,
Yeah.
and then you shoot up to that number, and then you have a smooth sailing until about 25 US, where you have the next break of structures and people and so on that are required to go to the 100 before you go to the billion. But then even then, it's easy. It's easier.
Yeah.
Much easier.
But then the leverage is much better, right? For every ounce invested, you get so much more, whether it's time or money or...
And you have more spiel to invest, right?
Yeah.
So I invested stupidly in a managing director who dubbed himself a turnaround manager. Yeah, we did turn us around downwards. I mean, and by the time he departed after 2 years, way too late by me, he actually proclaimed this industry being dead, and we're pivoting to something amazing and new and growing, right?
Oh wow!
So and one nice good mentor gave me that idea. When do you hire? Because I was very keen, with governance and create structures and management and put other people in charge, and so I can go sailing with my wife and whatever, play paddle and tennis and enjoy life with the kids. But you put people in place. So the question is, when can you put people in place for those who are a bit more advanced? And this one mentor had a very beautiful definition. You can put other people in place. When they fail, it's not going to pinch you. So I put too early people in place, because when they failed, these expensive managing directors, and they cost me just way too much, that it really pinched me hard, or could even cost my survival at some point, just because of that mistaken decision. Yeah. But when you actually can afford, when we're doing $25 million, you're doing $100 million, okay, managing director that earns even $250,000, if you're a failure, it's not going to pinch you, right? It's not going to hurt you as such.
Yeah.
But if you're a younger entity, and anything you invest or do,
you're
or
a lot
decide
more fragile
to do,
when you're younger.
You should not do anything that you can't afford to do. We had a merger opportunity, or an acquisition rather opportunity, in our industry. Now with someone who's similarly large or a bit smaller now, post-COVID comparison. And again, I went back to my EO peers, who are the most amazing mentors that you can find. And one specifically who has done a lot of mergers and acquisitions in his career, and said, should I look at this? What's your rule number one? Rule number one is, do it only if you can stem it, if you lose it. So if you can afford, if it goes bust and you can afford that, do it. But if you're putting all, your house and all your money, and you bet everything you have onto the merged new entity succeeding, and it doesn't, and you would be dead, then you don't do it. I thought that's extremely wise, advice that no professional entity would ever give you. Yeah. You should be able to afford to lose that acquisition.
It reminds me of my trading days. The thing used to be that you used to say to you, so we didn't do speculative trading. We did hedging trading for our clients. So if you had exposure to other currencies, we'd hedge those for you. The rule was, will you show up the next day? So prevent risk of ruin. Don't have a position so large that you go bust.
Correct.
So you can take small hits as long as you want.
As long as you can afford that. Yes.
It's like, I think at some point, the rulers in the past, they used to take small hits of poison every day just to get their bodies acclimatized to poison. So in the future, if they were to get poisoned, they would survive that. And it's proven in science now that you can actually do that, which is how vaccines work. Well, similar concept on that.
It's like cash flow, huh? You take small jabs every single day.
Yeah, exactly.
So that we can survive the big space.
Yeah, but that's how I think of risk of ruin, and like making decisions like, how can you avoid complete failure? Because your job is to show up the next day and be there. But this sounds so much easier in theory than it is in practice now that I'm learning now.
And with a smile. You have to add a smile to it.
And add a smile to it.
Yes, because everyone is looking at you. I mean, you show up next day
Yeah.
And you have a grim face and it's end of world scenario and you don't think what's happening, think about COVID.
Yeah.
You step up with a smile and you lead the crew through it and say, we don't know where it's going, but we're going.
Yeah.
That's not easy.
Yeah.
But if you have a grim face, you lose your crew on the ship. You have mutiny. Everyone jumps off.
I failed at that. I have a personal failure story for that too. I was the youngest ever manager at the company that I was at. I was 27, managing 13 people, salespeople, traders, operations people. And I was deflated because we weren't doing well. And I showed it. And I showed up with my shoulders down. And people sense it, right?
Yes.
And I wasn't able to rally myself and I couldn't rally them. Luckily, I had a good team that took care of me. And they relaxed me by giving me the numbers and the results and taking me out and like talking to me because they saw me that they were all older than me too. I was 27. Some of them were 40, 45, 50 years old. And they're like, listen, kid, it's going to happen. It's going to go south. Let's do this together. So it was like a reverse mentorship. My employees were mentoring me, but that thing stuck with me. The power of that.
It's quite a simple analogy I have for that. It's like business is like a ship.
Yeah.
And I like to tell people always, imagine that old style pirate ship, sailing ships.
Yeah.
Most new generation maybe don't know how it looks like. They only speedboats or something.
Yeah.
But in all these ships had sails.
Sails, yeah.
And imagine you're on high sea and you have your crew and, there's been a storms, you've lost track, you're on the ocean, your supplies are running out. And
people
the last thing people are scared, they don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
They do have a purpose, reaching port to make the money by delivering or looting another ship or whatever their purpose is. But now they're lost on sea and they're short of supplies. And, first people are really lying low and no food is there, no water is there, day after day. And the sun is scorching hot. What do you want the captain to do? Is he going to go down in the cabin, put his feet up, and rest? Or is he going down into his cabin depressed? Is he coming up and says, I don't know where it's going, it's end of life?
Yeah.
Or will he come on deck and say, this is the direction, that's where land is, that's where water is, that's where future is, and rallies everyone up? And the minute someone says mutiny, you're talking shit, lock them actually up or throw them overboard, that's where water is. Does he know where water is? No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
He's assuming his charts and compass and so on. So you have to have plausible solutions. And it's not about bullshit. It's about really deep intrinsically believing that that's where water is.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's bullshit. I mean, we're not talking about bullshit. We're talking about genuine business and genuine people.
Yeah.
So if you really believe that's the direction, you still have to look sharp in the eye of everyone and convince them that this is the direction. This is where the hailed lands are. This is where we're going to all hit it big together. This is where we can fulfill our purpose.
Yeah.
This is where we're going to make money as well, and so on. And as dire as the situation is, you still keep them on board. And if they don't want to be, okay, mutiny, you would lock them out or throw them overboard or shoot them or whatever. And corporate, you give warnings and exit them. That's what you can do in companies. But you assemble the right crew that believes in this journey. And even if it gets really tough, you still have to show direction always, and buy the buy-in and inspire people that yes, it's tough now, but that's where it is.
Let's dig into that because I'm going through something similar right now. So for our agency business, that part is kind of almost figured out, the direction and pushing people. I'm making this podcast into a business of its own as well, so I'm being fully transparent on that too. So I built a separate team just for the podcast. I have a video editor and an assistant, a Swiss Army knife kind of person that I have, Bianca, that's been reaching out to you and helping me as well. And recently I had a all hands meeting, the three of us. And the one feedback I got, which is totally fair, is like, but what's the direction? Like, I know you want us to do X, Y, Z. I know what our sprint is. I know what we're focusing on for 1 month. But what are the overall goals? So I know you're a fan of like the OKRs. I wanted to do a masterclass on OKRs, but we won't have time for a full masterclass. That was when I was doing my research, I had to watch a TED Talk by John Doerr. How do you say his name?
John Doerr, I guess.
Doerr. And
he talked about, setting the right objectives, like having the right place to go. And I started, and I'm struggling with this because it was so easy when I was doing the agency. This content podcasting is a very blue ocean in the sense that there's no two names. There's one name.
Correct.
I'm the product in this whole thing. So I get to define where I get to take it. And
are you?
I'm trying. I can't come up with, I want help in goal setting. Like from what you've learned in the last 24 years or even before that.
Well, I'm just alluding to, you might be Roger Federer.
What?
Or you might be Naeem. Or you might be, whatever famous actor, George Clooney.
Yeah.
But to either of them, to have a success, have a full assembly of team around them.
Yeah.
Federer has physios, nutritionists, coaches, managers, etc., etc. So you might be the product, Naeem.
Yes.
But it does take a lot more
100%
to take it to a certain direction.
Yeah.
But I don't want to deflect from your question back to OKRs.
But that's exactly it. And I'm willing to invest in the team, and they know that too. They're both abroad right now, and they're both going to watch this too. So I know I've told them that I want to bring them here. We want to start up our own like little warehouse thing and get going with our own studio and our production company. But how should I look at setting objectives? And this, you could talk about it from a first principles, just to get ideas. If you are starting a new venture, if someone's starting a new venture, or if someone's starting their second or their third venture, ideas are cheap, ideas are available, but setting that objective, what can you teach me about that, or what guidance can you give?
First is a vision. We have also with my wife, the Tres Leche Pasteleria business, which is the Mexican milk cakes that we're bringing to market. Brought it from Mexico City here. It's deep in the family, 40 stores in Mexico. Now it's here. Product is great, right? Product is fantastic. But how do you take that to commercial fruition and enlarge it? So if you actually just think about the cake example, it answers your question. It starts with a broader vision.
Is this vision tangible, intangible?
The vision is a picture where you see that business in the future, and it's not numbered. Not necessarily, absolutely not numbered. It's not about I will be selling 1 million cakes and blah, blah, blah. I will have 1 million users. More like Bill Gates' I will be in every home, in every PC. More my cake will be in every home. More my cake will be known in every household in the Middle East. More Middle East and Africa, the rest of the world will know about my cake. Because that vision is your North Star, and it's a very long-term vision. And it's not numbered, because if numbered, it's ended already. Purpose, again, is something else, could be behind it. Why are you doing all of this? It can be completely different. But a vision for a business is absolutely essential. It's like, it guides you like a North Star, the caravan tracks in the desert, that this is where we're going.
Yeah.
So that's your broadest goal, and it's not numbered. And it's valid at long term. It should be valid at least 10 years, if not even 20, 30 years, before it gets a bit redefined. I would say at least bare minimum 5 to 10 years, the vision should be able to last, and definitely not numbered. Our vision is to reach $5 million of revenue in the next 5 years. It's not a vision. That's not a vision for a business.
Yeah.
That's a goal.
It doesn't get through the tough days, those kind of visions.
It's a goal. It's a monetary goal. That's not a vision for your business. So what is, back to the cake business, we're going to bring the Mexican specialty to the rest of the world. Could be a vision, right? Now imagine every decision. Do we open in Nairobi? Does that align with the vision? Yes, it would. Do we open in Frankfurt? Yes, it would. That would be a very grand vision. So for your podcast, I want the world to know about Dubai. I'm just making up something.
Sure.
Right? So the world should know about Dubai. So every future decision you do, and every goals that you set, milestones for the next 10, 5, 1 year, quarters, months, and day, will be always aligned with bring Dubai to the world. So the decisions you would take to do this podcast right now is that bringing Dubai to the world. If yes, it would be aligned with your business.
Right.
So it starts with a vision. Then, of course, if you have a North Star, you need to know if you're on track, right?
Yeah.
You need to know on track. That's why you come up with goals. So the goals are more tangible, time-based. I would say in agility, we typically do not go beyond 3 years.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about 3-year business plans. Only IBM can dash them out because they grow for the last 50 years by 8% a year. So they can easily dash out the business plan by pushing template plus 8%.
Yeah.
But in a normal business, a small business, it doesn't just work out. Whatever you set out to plan is not going to happen. But to have, again, a tangible parameter where we're going to be in the next 3 years.
Yeah.
So in my books, I want to have 4,000 machines, 1,000 in Kenya, 3,000 machines in the market by the end of 2025 in this new pivoted scheme, for instance. That's a tangible goal.
Right. So this is numbered.
Yeah, this is numbered.
Okay.
And there's a strategy behind it.
Okay.
The way we bundle the product, that's called strategy. The way we bundle it and we say it's a free placement. We've taken the external finance out and we made it a new bundle in a way that customers would jump on it. That's a strategy.
Okay.
How you place your product. So you have a vision. You have a tangible goal for a more limited period.
Yeah.
Coming closer to what you're asking, then you come down to a year's objectives. And I still would call them goals and objectives. I want to spend more than half a day time with my team on where do we want to be at the end of this year and the next 3 years. And I would only have...
So 1 day per year just to think about the whole year?
I would have just 3-4 ballpark figures that matter.
Okay.
It's not always revenue. In every business, something else. Subscribed customers.
Yeah. Like for me, it could be number of episodes published. Because the more I publish, the better
number
for my
of viewers
business.
in your case and whatever.
Yeah.
Could matter, right?
Yeah.
So you set those for this year we want. Now you're coming closer to OKR. The OKRs are typically set mostly for quarterly cycles, the way I learned it. You come together, we did a two-day strategic offsites. You go through a certain rhythm of, we did Pecha Kuchas, which is a reflection on the last quarter, what happened, the data, the analysis.
How do you say that?
Our coach called it Pecha Kucha. I don't know where it comes from. So Pecha Kucha is a reflection. So it starts with the good news, the bad news, the ugly, of the last quarter. So if every single manager reflects on that, then we have a book club. Traditionally, we had a book club. And then you have your learnings from the book club, and then you speak about your key metrics. But within the metrics, it's not so important to talk about metrics. Everyone knows the sales sucked or they're up.
Yeah.
It's about the root causes and the kaizens. It's the understanding and the innovations that matter more.
Yeah.
And did you run any experiments? And what are the results of these experiments, failures and successes, fast renditions? That's what OKR Life loves, right? And the sprints that you do for a week or two. And then the Pecha Kucha also ends, I think, with most exciting trends. And another last slide of the 20 slides is the weakest link. And it's a person named in the entity. It's not, the operations manager. No, it is Naeem. And why is he the weakest link? So it's a really tough thing.
Wow.
Transparency goes that deep, right? It's not Naeem sucks. It's just the weakest link in this quarter. And why is it the weakest link? Whatever. I don't know. He didn't show up to 3 podcasts, right? So it's not for every man. It's not for everybody. Openness and transparency is not for everyone. It's definitely not for corporate people.
Yeah.
And this is a 20 slides. Each runs 20 seconds, timed, automatic. So you don't have much time to talk. And you have to really focus that you get that one message, that one thing across on each slide. And it's pictured, no text allowed. So there's no writings. You can put numbers where they matter, but there's no, it's not like a PowerPoint that you have bullet points and writings.
Yeah, and you have a story and then
a broken link is a, ship anchor chain, whatever that is broken. And you put that as an image and you talk about what happened behind that image quickly.
Yeah.
So you don't write. It's a very different kind of presentations. So then you go through your various exercises to also identify the pressing points, what really matters and what are the possible solutions. We have various tools at hand. One of our favorites that we use is a speedboat exercise. You take that sailing boat, and then you say, okay.
My staff is going to laugh at this because we just did this
sailing
a
boat,
week
right?
ago. I don't know if it's the same one. We did a sailboat with an anchor.
Yes.
And on the top we have post-its for what's working well and what's not working well.
Very similar, but it's slightly different. So first we start the exercise with understanding what's the North Star.
We didn't do that.
Because the boat has to go in the direction, right? Vision, 3-year goal, 1-year goal, quarterly goals, monthly goals,
this is why I bring this up. That's the part that's missing for me right now for this podcast.
The very first thing, whether it's a small project on the day, or it's a project for the week, or a project for the month, or a quarterly goal, there has to be a clarity on North Star. in your business, let's say, North Star, we did last quarter, 10 podcasts. Why did not more happen? You have analyzed it. You have understood a few things. You saw some data and say, we need to reach 30 podcasts in this quarter. Example, right? So your North Star would be 30 podcasts. And the North Star, is it really a North Star, or is it just like IBM style 10 plus 8% or whatever? And once you have defined the North Star, can you do the speedboat exercise? Because then we draw the ship and say, okay, there are things that will accelerate this ship, the wind into the sail.
Yeah.
And there are things that are holding back this ship. Anchors to reach this North Star. Then in the next block of minutes, 5 to 8 minutes, everyone has these sticky notes, fat pen, smaller sticky notes. In capital letters, each sticker can be one idea. Everyone will sit in silence on their own, whoever is participating in this exercise, and writes whatever stickers they believe could accelerate this ship or is holding back this ship, is slowing it down right now, the anchors. In the next session, and that's also not a debate, because any debate at these levels will kill any brainstorming effort.
Yeah.
You cannot debate at these levels, because it's not about debate, it's about idea gatheration. In the next level, they come to the board and they present their idea. I believe that having 2 microphones in the studio is not enough. That's why we couldn't do 30 podcasts. So I believe we need to buy 5 more microphones. That would accelerate our business. I believe that, whatever is holding us back. They put up their ideas. When you give them 5 minutes, always say, okay, now you have another 2 minutes, minimum 1 more sticker. That's always usually the best sticker that comes out. And they really have to think 1 more out. So typically people get 5, 6, 7 ideas on average, I would say, in such exercises. If they don't get any ideas, you should rethink whether they should be part of the exercises or the entity in the future.
Yeah.
But yes, indeed. But usually they do get quite easily. You have, let's say, 5 people in the room. By now you have 25 to 35 ideas or even more. Then in the next process, we choose 1 or 2 people, depending how big this exercise was, to align these ideas, because there are similarities.
Yeah.
Make lines. So out of these 30, 40 stickers, all of a sudden we have, let's say, 5 main lines.
So categorize them. Based on similarity.
Then, after that, the person who pitched the idea, this is now the first time comes to pitch. So we draw an animal tree, we call it. So what's the most powerful animal you think there is in your eyes?
For me?
Yeah.
Lion?
Lion. So lion becomes number 1.
Okay.
What's the weakest, you think? Or
a weasel?
A weasel.
Yeah.
So that becomes last. And we do that every time with new animals. So we have 5. So from lion, let's say we come to the rhinoceros, and from that we come to the giraffe, to the gazelle, and to the weasel. So now you come to the board with your idea and you pitch. In order to reach this North Star, that's to be very specific. See, if you don't have the North Star, this exercise is a bit...
We did it without the North Star, and now I can see why it was like,
it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So in order to reach this North Star, I think this idea, all of a sudden I'll think about the microphones, is a gazelle. Right? But this other idea that he had, all of a sudden, he has to pitch. I think it's an elephant. And then a voting happens. Best you have a show of some deck cards. You vote. You don't debate again.
Yeah, it's voting.
If the vote is equal, pretty much, it stays as an elephant or a lion or whatever. If there is a disparity, and I'm saying it's a weasel, and you saying it's a lion, the weakest and the strongest get a 30-second pitch why they think is weakest and why it's strongest. And then a revote happens, but not a debate. Because that's also very important to understand. In brainstorming sessions, you kill each other in that session. And then it goes accusation, blame, defense, and it's done.
Or the loudest person wins.
It's done.
Or the biggest dick wins.
You don't get any data. Now, when all of this is done, some ideas we call JFDIs, just fucking do it. So there's a special column, because they are not worth an OKR. They're not worth a project over 3 months. They're not worth a sprint over 2 weeks. They're just, we need a new invoice booklet, JFDI. Just go do it, right?
Just
so
do it,
5, 6, 7, 8 ideas go into JFDIs. And now, as it happens, also 5 are lines. And then 3 are rhinoceros, and 6 are weasels, and whatever is in between, right? So the beauty of this exercise is the whole board gets cleared. And you have to really understand. First you do a voting, by the way, on the line. Now we do dotmocracy. So you get a fat pen and you get X number of dots you can deploy. We say, let's say 8 dots, but no more than 3 dots on one sticker. So you can't put all 8 on one sticker. Or you can deploy 3 dots maximum on one sticker and then go around and do your dots. So you could put 1, 1, 1 and 3 on this one.
Wait, just for context, how many people are in the room doing this?
Any number. It could be 3 people, it could be 5 people, it could be 7 people.
What's too many? How much is too many?
Manageable 7, 9 would be max.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 3 dots per sticker is max, and total they get 8 dots.
You get 8 dots.
Okay.
So there are 5 ideas online. So people pitched, they got voted that these are the ideas that will help us achieve the quarterly goal, on the way to the annual goal, on the way to the 3-year goal, on the way to fulfilling our vision long term. You understand how it rolls back and forward, right?
Yeah.
It's from day to week to months to quarter to year to 3 years to 10 years.
Yeah.
And it goes back from 10 years to 1 day, right? So then comes your cadence of meetings and everything that feeds this system, right?
Yeah.
So now you did your dots and one got a clear clarity.
The lion.
One is the winning line,
Yeah, the winning
but most
line.
the dots.
Yeah.
The beauty is that all the other, I should be polite, right? It's a podcast, I can't use the right words, but all the other stickers vanish.
Yeah.
Right? So all the other 40 stickers, you just rip them off the wall. As brilliant as they might have seemed, they go into the bin.
You don't even collect them for future.
They go into the bin. That's the most difficult part. And that's called prioritization. The English word priority is only one priority, and there's no more than one priority. And if you do have one priority worthy of an OKR, you have a high chance of achieving it in the next quarter.
I love that.
And that becomes a company's priority, right? So everything else is in the bin, because if you keep now the rest, let's do also this, very tempting, brilliant idea, and let's do a bit of that marketing, and let's do a bit of that, that's very tempting. All of a sudden you don't have a priority and you don't have an OKR anymore. You have 5 OKRs.
Yeah.
Now if you have a team of 5,000 people and 5 independent units, you might need 5 OKRs. But if you're a team of 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, a lot of our audience here in the UAE, yes, you cannot do more than 1 OKR, even 3. I have tried to take on 3 OKRs.
Yeah.
It's very difficult because each one needs a real driver, a real sponsor, and then team members that come for the weekly reflection sessions together, the iterations, the weekly projects that run on the past to showing you that the key results happen. OKR, by the way, objective, also not numbered. The key results are numbered. So this quarter will become the leading studio of the UAE.
Yeah.
How would we know we are the leading studio of the UAE? By having X number of podcasts, by having X listeners, by having Y revenue stream, that's your 3 to 5 key results. And then better to have leading key results than lagging key results. When lagging is revenue and so on, it's at the end, leading key results, what would they be?
Yeah.
So these are key results that you would have 3 to 5 to say we became the leading studio in this quarter. And the leading studio is also an inspirational statement, never numbered. The objective is never numbered in John Durr's book.
So even if I say
kick Motorola, ruin whatever, destroy Motorola was one of their famous examples in the book, how to beat Motorola.
Choose an enemy and defeat that enemy.
Yes.
So for this particular podcast, like the My First Business podcast, I could say leading entrepreneurship podcast in the region. Is that a vision? Will that count as a vision? Because it's not numbered.
It could be a vision, but it could be a bit more juicy and
because I'm not getting the feeling from that.
Leading is also, I also started saying leading, document printing solutions provider. It is leading. You can say leading, you can say premier, you can say
number one.
Leading, what does it mean in your head though?
Yeah.
What does it mean, the biggest shows or the more qualitatively the
for
best?
For this particular show, the most listened to business podcast in the GCC.
Much better than leading, you see.
I'm saying that on camera. This is going to be the
Record
most...
it. I'm charging for that. The most listened to is beautiful. It's inspirational. It is clear.
Yeah.
It iterates itself over time Because the most listened to now, 10 people are listening, but in 5 years, 20 people are listening to other podcasts, and in 10 years, so it moves with you.
Yeah.
So that is way more towards a beautiful vision. The most listened to podcast in the GCC.
Thank you, man. This is like a breakthrough.
When
I've been looking for this
bloody
statement
business
for
coach
like...
will charge you $20,000 for this right now.
I know, that's why.
Me.
That's why I tell people, I'm like, don't pay a coach, just start a podcast and bring smart people on. They help you. That's how we do things. Don't
exploit me, huh?
It's too late already.
Too late.
I think I'm the one who's really winning over here. I think you're. But I like that. I like the whole cascading effect of what you talked about. I am going to switch gears. I told you about that movie before we started where it's not very chronological. So I'm going to take you back to, let's do some time travel. Let's go back to 1978, 79.
What did you research there?
I've heard the story.
Of a revolution. Is that where you're going?
Yes. But there's something missing in the story for me that I was trying to figure out because I'm just generally curious. And we, at all points, like we're talking about vision and purpose, and I know some of that probably came from experiences around those times. I know, and we'll tell the audience as well, but I know what you did afterwards or how that experience shaped you afterwards in school, for example, the activities you took up or your current business purpose. And people are wondering what we're talking about. I'll get to that in a second. But what was missing for me, and I don't know why this curiosity came to me, is the thoughts of the 10-year-old. Were you 10 years old at that time? 10-year-old Sassan. When you're packing your bags, like what was the thoughts in your mind when you're getting on that bus to that plane? At that point, what were you thinking? When you're on the plane, before you landed, what were you thinking? So maybe you can brief context setting for the audience.
Tense. I was between tension and excitement.
Could you tell the backstory for the audience very briefly of
what
was happening?
I was a child born to a German mother and Iranian father, Iranian Azerbaijani father, but we lived in southern Iran in Abadan.
Yeah.
Both my parents worked for the National Iranian Oil Company. My mom in the healthcare segment. She was head nurse of the largest hospital of the NIC and also part of the general management of the hospital. My dad was more on the engineering infrastructure side with the NIC in charge of Khuzestan, the province, for all the infrastructure they were building, like clubs and whatever. It was a very, very, very beautiful life. And it was the royal kingdom of the Shah. In those days, their passport was worth more than any other passport in the world. Without visas or whatever, to US, Europe, Japan, wherever you went, most welcome. And then what historians might know, the revolution happened, which was a very bloody revolution. So in the wake of 78, schools get shut down, of course, as like COVID lockdown, there's school lockdown, and things get quite precarious. And Abadan, where we lived, is actually the thing that made the thing happen and made the revolution quite violent, which also I saw in the aftermath, not on the day, but in the days after the location, which was a cinema that was showing a Western movie, and 400 people were in it, and the doors were shut down, and the cinema was put on fire, and 400 people died in fire. And did
you know that as a kid too? Like, was the story
I
out,
knew,
or just
I didn't understand
afterwards?
the full implication, what it meant. I mean, we went to the site. I saw the site as well, so I can remember the burned down cinema and the stories of it. I think 10,000s of people just died in the wake of the revolution and aftermath, which led to war and so on, and destruction of that country in a sense to what it is now. And so we were children. Lockdown of schools happens. I do still remember early 78 lockdowns happen, so we're not going to school. So partially it's party time, of course. But then there is also lockdown, which means 7, 8 p.m., whatever it is, you have to be curfew. You have to be in the homes. At times, we would be in other homes of friends or family members. But then all of a sudden, it starts also sounding a bit weird. With all the shootings and everything at night. So that's quite prominent. And since we were in the major NIC district of Abadan, which is like whatever, in today's context, your Emirates Hills of Dubai, that was hermetically closed by the military with tanks and everything. So in the daytime, they were our friends protecting us. So I would play on tanks and with soldiers. But in the nighttime, they had a job and they were shooting. So you hear that, and it still gives me goosebumps every time I have to think about it. But my mom, my mother is from the World War generation in Germany, so she lost everything she had. And then, my mom comes out and says, "Not again. I'm losing everything again." And I have processed this many times, and it's not easy. And it just catches you always up those scenarios as a child. And then comes one good day, they call you up at 10, 11, 12 p.m. with the help of embassy and so on, and you get in a car, and it's night, and you jump in the car, and yes, it's exciting. I had my plastic gun and my water gun, but at the same time, you're driving 10, 15 kilometers to a spiral of tanks and soldiers that are shooting to the airport, and you enter through a fence, not into the terminal, into a fence, into the runway, and you get loaded into a civilian-type aircraft chartered by the U.S. military, and you get extracted to Bahrain at the time. Well, it was a big reception, and from there we got transferred to Greece, and from Greece to England, and then we were in boarding schools, and my brother was already out, so I got then into a boarding school in southern England, and before my mother went back to Germany and settled herself, and then brought us all together in Germany somehow. And by that time, you've lost everything, because the currency went from, I think it was $1 to $3. It had gone already to 1 to 60. So any cash money that you had is already evaporated. Any belongings you have, house, horses, boats, cars, whatever we had, it's all, family is gone. Good friends of the family, they were hanged, pictures sent to their wives. It went really destructive, right? Whatever they had built, everything is gone. The home country is gone, money is gone, future is gone, and you have to build that. And that never goes out of the system easily, Spiritual say, forget it, it's belongings, it's material, but it's not only material. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for getting vulnerable for me. And then I know losing all of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, feel more empathy for people that could also lose something any day.
Yeah, the world is full of it, and unfortunate. And putting a positive spin on it, entrepreneurship is the only one we can. I personally try to go into politics, right? In Germany, it's very common. You study law, you go into politics. It's very, very common. So why you go into politics? I thought you want to shape the world. You want to make the world a better place. How do you make the world a better place? So you go to politics. Then you enter politics, believe it or not, in Germany. I was part of a youth organization of the business-friendly party, FDP. I was a treasurer, I think, for southern Germany. That was my function already. All geared up. I meet, diversity rules. I'm German, Iranian. So, yeah! So I'm going to be elected into parliament in next, believe me, in 2 or 3 years I'll be in parliament and make my way in politics. That's how it was set. I was picked up and cheered up immediately. I'm studying law, I'm smart, okay, somewhat smart, and meet all the criteria in politics. But then I saw that even in Germany, you think it's like that in Mexico or in Iran or elsewhere? No, in Germany, every single politician is after their own personal interest. So even in the youth organization, they wanted just a scholarship, the vicinity to a parliamentarian, the next position. I said, who's talking about politics? Who's talking about changing Germany or changing...
Just playing games.
...the world or doing foreign politics or economics? No one is interested. Just about power and money. So I decided very quickly, going back, if you want to make this world a better place, where people don't have to leave their homes, where their parents are not killed by wars or revolutions, where people are not starving hunger on streets, your only chance is entrepreneurship. And the bigger and more successful you become, the more people you can impact, the more you can give this Ark Noah safety environment and contribute. But that's what we lost. Home country, family togetherness. Where's my family? London, Geneva, Los Angeles, Frankfurt, Vienna, Munich. Keep counting. We don't have a family Sunday where we go for dinner or lunch.
And we didn't have WhatsApp back then, or Zoom calling.
WhatsApp,
You have to send a pigeon to
my uncle was a 4-star general of the Iranian Air Force prior to revolution. He had to be a shift leader in a fast food chain for Kentucky type of chicken. And then, you know, that's how he restarted, and he rebuilt, and he became operations manager, I think, for the Los Angeles Times distribution, waking up 2 a.m. until 6 a.m., making sure the newspapers go out. This is a 4-star general that brought the Phantom jet to Iran at the time. So that's how life changed.
Yeah.
Right? So that gives you purpose. You know, all of us have a drive. And more so if you go back to EO and on a lighter note, hello. You're back.
Yeah.
Everyone has, I've seen quite deep experiences, traumatic experiences.
Yeah.
And that's it. I think entrepreneurs also, aside in their motivation, had some sort of traumatic experiences on a family side and a different side that gives them that extra juice and elan and drive to do what they're doing. So that's why Simon Sinek tries to find it for corporates.
Yeah.
The corporates don't have that. The founders have that.
Yeah.
Corporate doesn't have experienced anything like that. The founder has experienced what deep down is the driving engine to make him do what he's doing.
Yeah.
It could be anything that we do. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's also a news to the listeners. It really doesn't matter. The way overemphasized is the idea of what you do. I slipped into my business without having a specific. I didn't dream I'd become a toner cartridge king of the world. And that's not my dream at all.
Yeah.
Green,
Exactly.
Green, yes. Job creation, yes.
Yeah.
Creating that safe environment for people. I proudly can say, at least for those people have already retired under my wings with wealth and property. They didn't need to go stealing. They didn't do hunger. We supported people in many ways. We have many stories, you know, in our entity itself, how people have created a substantial life, even on the blue-collar side, let's say labor force.
Yeah.
The long-termers, they don't make 800 or 1,200 in a labor camp. They live on their own in town and make 4,500, 6,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they've developed a life.
Yeah.
They have an ecosystem.
Yeah.
None of them needs to resort to crime. None of them needs to, you know, steal anything from anyone.
That's how you get your followers, right? You get the weak, the destitute, the desperate. And these are the people.
That's the feeding ground, yeah.
Yeah, and you, not just them, their families, their kids are all inspired
and across the
by
world,
this
by
message.
the way. This is not one country. This is throughout history of mankind, and across the entire world, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It is the same thing.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. You mentioned EO in there as well. Let's switch gears.
Faster? More powerful? EO.
No, I mean, okay, well, I'll make the last point before we go to EO too. So I didn't have the experience that you've had, but makes me think about, I grew up very comfortably, medium, middle class, well off, had everything. Got my first job. I was making 6 figures in my first job. I was a young 23-year-old, high flying, making 6 figures, buying anything I wanted. I bought my first property after 1 year of working because we were making good dough. Until I get the phone call. And, you know, my father was diagnosed with Parkinson's about, 12 years ago now. The world just went like, you don't have time to be a boy anymore. You're straight into man. And that shift happened. I'm glad it happened. You know, it's a bad thing to say.
You wouldn't be sitting here otherwise.
I wouldn't be working towards the betterment of a lot of things that I look at life at with a much different lens, whether that's entrepreneurship or other things. I'm not saying I'm the best human being, I'm the most empathetic, but it has given me a reason to become more. And that reason, whether I choose to take care of it, I have weaker days and I have stronger days, but hopefully my tally, if I have more stronger days than weaker days, I'm happy with that.
It's back to the traumatic event that I see in entrepreneurship, a traumatic event of sorts in the family and life.
Using it as fuel, right? Yeah. Using it as fuel and making whatever impact you think is important.
It just rattles you and wakes you up that there is more to life than yourself and a straight line career. I was in the same corporate career with the same 6-digit whatever salary it is, high flying in Frankfurt. I just couldn't see myself doing that for the next 40 years, even with all the wealth that was associated with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have so much to talk about. You have to come back again. There's a lot to talk about. I have 15 minutes and I have to choose between 16 things to talk to you about. So, okay, EO. What, let me phrase it this way. What unfair advantage do you think you have or you've gotten because of EO, if any?
Oh, the most amazing accumulation of human capital in a most amazing way, the way it's structured. What people do have to understand is we are not a business network organization. We are not. It's not about many junior organizations that are for pitching BNI or something, where it's about clearly just business.
Referrals, exchanges, and all that.
I'm also an endeavor entrepreneur where it's purely about scaling your business. There's other organizations. EO is much about self-development to start with. And it's a very structured organization. First of all, it's the leading global organization for entrepreneurs. We have by now 18,000 members worldwide in over 220 chapters in 65 odd countries. In the UAE, we have about 130 active members and an accelerator program that goes up and down, 20 to 40 members. So let's say 150, 60 members and program members at large here. And that being so, even there's a lot of applications. Right now we have probably about 150 applications in the funnel to join. And the time to process it, because we are self-organized, is a very tough one. Now when we get together, we have pillars. One critical pillar, which is the EO's biggest advantage, is the forum. The forum is a small, tight-knit group of 6 to 8 people get together on a monthly, regular basis and have a kind of an update session about business, self, and life, family every month in a very structured fashion. And that in a highly confidential environment and a non-judgmental environment with the use of Gestalt language. So we don't say, I advise you, you should. And that these words are kind of prohibited. It's more about
man. If I hear that one more time, you know what you should do.
No. That immediately one person in the forum should then raise hand happens, but then one person raise hands, that's we're leaving your language. So it'd be, when I was in a situation like, this is what I did. And then we try to allow each other to reflect and go into the realms that we usually don't go into, like the fourth realm. And that's what happens in the forum. And then we have the learning aspect. Learning is not only learning business, it could be learning many things, like cultural, spiritual, self, family, business, big business learnings. 2 years ago, we had Professor Bill Olet, the head of the entrepreneurship center of MIT in Dubai, for 3 full days as a master course. That's like invaluable. Last year, we had John Mullins, London Business School, 2 days. This year, most likely no one less than Vern Harnish himself will be here with us for 2.5 days. The Master of Scaling Up book. We had the guy who wrote his chapters about cash, Alan Mills, here last year. So the speakers, the lineup is immense, business-wise, but then even if you go spiritual-wise, we had Mashila, very controversial, stories of we get all the aspects. And then you have the experience pillar, whether you want to go to Antarctica or whether you want to see the palaces of the Maharashas in India, or whether you want to meet the president of X, or you want to be in Richard Branson's private island in the Caribbean. All these are current events that are happening within our organization that you can participate. All members can participate
globally.
Yeah. We have Discovery Mexico this year, big trip. We have so many things running right now. Botswana, Safari, whatever taste you have. Antarctica became so popular that we had 3 ships going with EO to Antarctica, different timings. So yes, forum, learning, experience is unique, but the humongous value is when you're in a trusted network of people where you trust each other and it's confidential. Everyone can bring something to the table that is so different, and we uniquely share our experiences with each other in business, life, and family and self. And that is an unbeatable value in the way I have evolved since 8 years since I'm a member. And much of my knowledge, tried to share my knowledge wherever I can, but much of my knowledge comes through experiences. For instance, I refer to one of my forum members who has done a lot of mergers and acquisitions, said, do the one that if it goes bust, doesn't kill you. Held me off of doing a big mistake. Where do you get that? You know, at the helm of a business, you're alone. So either you have mentors or boards or some sort of a structure. And EO is an amazing structure, and not only locally, but when you travel internationally, anywhere you go. So you'll have members in, you know, I go to Cape Town, boom. I want to meet people, I want doors open, boom. I'm going to Kenya, open my office, meet 3 EO members, do it here, do it there, help, needs, leads, everything.
Yeah.
So the value of the organization is immense to someone who uses it. I mean, someone who uses it to become a member and say, I'm a member, and doesn't engage himself, of course, there will be no value. You have to put yourself
I
in.
don't imagine anyone having these opportunities and not taking advantage of
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Really?
Prestige thinking is very common in this part of the world. So I want to belong to
Interesting.
organizations because they have prestige.
Oh.
And more so, we want to belong to our sister organization, which is YPO, because there you have bigger entities because employees are allowed.
Is it a sister organization?
Yes, we came out of YPO some
Okay.
38 years ago or something.
Okay.
And it's a great organization, but the difference with us is we don't have employees. So yes, the employees could be a shiny CEO of a major bank, and that's why people join it, because there's politicians, corporate majors in it.
Right.
So it has a very, very good purpose in business networking, but it's extremely different to us when it comes to self-development,
Got it.
because we don't have employees with us. We're purely entrepreneurs.
Right.
And the authenticity of the stories, they're very different.
Well, that's what I've noticed as well, because every member of EO that's come on has explained EO in a different way because of what it means to them. And yes, it's kind of theming around the same thing, but it's nice to hear your version, Dhiren's version, Roma's version, MC's version, Saleh's version. It's all very different, what everyone derives from it.
Yes.
But one theme that is common is the self-development and the camaraderie of the forum.
Yes.
Almost like a cult.
From outside, it might look like it, yes.
It's almost like a cult. But, these are the people you can call at 2 a.m. if you can't get sleep and you're running through an idea and you're like, hey, who do I talk to about this merger?
Just imagine like any resource you want within the same organization, whether it's any industry segment expertise that you want, whether it's country expertise that you want, whether it's size of business expertise that you need. Because we span multi-billion-dollar entities to the minimum value is $1 million, but we are far from the million. In the UAE, the average is around $30 million.
Yeah.
So we do have a bulk of businesses with 2, 5, 10. We have a huge number of businesses that are 20s, 30s, 50s in US.
Yeah.
And then we have the ones over 100, and then we do have the ones that are billion-dollar valued companies.
Interesting.
Or revenue companies.
Yeah.
So we have the whole spectrum presence.
Yeah.
And that pool of expertise that you have in a trusted environment, in a confidential environment, is just amazing.
Yeah. I'll make the connection. I don't know if this is true, but Kenya is. Did Rishi help at all in getting into Kenya? Because he's already there too.
I went there before I knew him.
Oh, okay. So he followed you there then.
No, he's Kenyan.
Yeah.
I mean, he's from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was here.
I followed him in presidency.
Wow. Oh yeah, you guys are exchanging seats, or not exchanging seats? You're taking a seat.
I mean, he was the past president. I'm the current, and MC, who you interviewed, will be the next.
Yeah.
And then me and MC are the first who are elected. So our organization is also democratizing itself.
Right.
So we have now a members election, and the leader is also elected. So it's not anymore appointed.
Yeah.
As it was before.
No sticky dots yet for voting for people, or is it in the ballot people throw in their names?
No, advanced. It's all electronic.
Oof. Listen, man, we're running out of time. There's at least 15 more things I want to talk to you about. So I was scrolling through my screen. I'm like, how the hell will I fit this in? So we'll have to get you back.
Priority.
We'll have to get you back into round 2. I do have one priority. I'm trying to start a new trend on this show of mine.
which is, and I've completely stolen this from someone else. So it's
No
Steve.
dancing on the table, anything
Nope.
like that.
No. We keep it professional here. But Diary of a CEO is a podcast that I listen to once in a while. Steve Bartlett is the host. He does this thing where he asks his current guest to leave a question for the next guest, not knowing who the next guest will be. And I'm hoping it's more EO entrepreneurs that'll be coming on the show in the future. But in general, you can be safe that it's entrepreneurs coming on the show. If there's one question you'd like me to ask the next guest, knowing that they're some sort of an entrepreneur, what would you ask them? Or what would you have me ask them?
Oh.
And then that person will give me one for next one, and then so
it's
on
kind
and
of
so forth.
challenging because you don't know who you're asking.
Exactly.
So it's what question you're keen to know. Yeah. Should be around people, because that remains the single most challenging aspect of any business. Whenever you put it together on Excel and you think you figured it out and you have the team assembled, and then one person's father has an illness and one other's whatever has happened, and then all your calculations fall apart.
Yeah.
So people management, definitely about people management and finding people. That topic would be extremely, as a topic, I think. Like, how do you find great people?
Yeah.
Jack Welch's words. How do you find great people? How do you help them manage them up? And with equal importance, how fast and relentless do you exit the wrong people?
C players.
That don't fit your culture, don't fit the business, and so on.
Yeah.
That is, ultimately, we might sound very harsh. When we talk to our leaders, and I talk to my manager, you should fire him, you should fire him. Sorry, yes, he's not performing. But then I come to my team of my 5 people and say, you're going to fire him? That's the most horrible decision to make.
Yeah.
And procrastination kicks in. And I've heard that very often, 6 months, 12 months, 1 year, 2 years, you procrastinate, and even when it's hurting you.
Yeah.
So I would discuss this topic of finding great people, how to you help them to, rise and deliver value to your entity, and then exit the wrong ones. How do you balance these two things, if at all?
Interesting. That's they're going to thank you for that, because that's such a painful topic for a lot of people. You're absolutely right. Last question of the day. If you had a billboard...
You tricked me. That was the last one.
Yeah, I did.
That was the last one already?
That was a question for the other guests.
Oh.
But I have one last one for you. You were listening.
You like those gym instructors. I did this cycling class only once, and I was sitting in front of that instructor and said,
no, I just
last
realized
5 minutes, last hill,
I did say last one. One more last one. I can't stop talking to you. So, okay, one last one. Promise, last one. This is on the record, last one. I even said the last one the last time, so that was my bad.
On record.
On record, last one. If you had a billboard on Sheikh Zayed Road, what would you put on it? And it doesn't have to be a commercial message. There's tons of people driving there. I don't know. You might know.
Are you crazy?
Stats.
My M880 printer, pivoted, free of cost, free exchange.
Can't be a commercial message.
No, I need my 4,000 printers out. There's nothing else that matters more. You mean myself with a paddle racket or something? No way. Peace be upon you. I leave that for Greenpeace. No.
Just a no-brainer.
Buy my printer. That's it. You don't need even to buy it. I put it free at your site. Believe it or not.
Exchange.
Trust me. With pointing in the billboard. Trust me, it's free. That's what I would put.
Oh, are you going to put the word free or exchange on there?
In exchange, yeah. Free exchange. Free otherwise they think I'm lying,
But if it was not a commercial message.
Oh, not a commercial message.
So you probably know the stats. How many cars drive by Sheikh Zayed Road every day?
I don't know that stat, but at Sheikh Zayed Road, it must be exceeding the 100,000.
So 100,000 people will see this every day. What message do you want to give them?
To the world.
To the world.
Peace. Love.
Eat, pray, love.
You say I cannot advertise my business.
You can't. Just any other message.
Any other message.
Yeah.
Enjoy the ride.
That's so good because it's on the highway and it has double meaning.
It's all about life. Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride.
Remind yourself you hit, bottoms and tough times and good times and whatever times, but just keep enjoying the ride.
I love it.
And one day it's over.
Not to be grim about it. But
not at all. That's the reality. In spiritual world, you have to understand that day can be tomorrow, can be any time. So enjoy the ride. It's tough to remind yourself when you're building so excited companies and you have these ambitious goals, and tomorrow it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, the stories are ample. You still have to enjoy the ride somehow. Finding the balance is critical, but enjoy the ride. And Sheikh Zayed wrote.
Enjoy the ride and
Make
play
people
paddle
think.
7 times a day.
I don't know, make people think a long time, and they just read a billboard, there's nothing else on it, and it just says enjoy the ride.
Imagine if we buy all the billboards on Sheikh Zayed Road throughout.
Enjoy the ride.
And it says enjoy the ride on every single one.
They think it's RTA, meaning the road is nice, or is it, is it life? What is it? Enjoy
Or they're
the
being
ride.
sarcastic,
Being
enjoy the ride.
sarcastic, yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really love this conversation. I think we're going to have a round 2 because there's tons of stuff to talk about and
Anytime.
get deeper in.
Love it.
And thanks, man.
Thank you. It was great. Thank
Cheers.
you.